You just drafted your fantasy football team, but that does not mean we go and sit on our hands waiting for week 1 of the fantasy football season. No, we dominate. Your 7 players you need to stash on the end of your bench before week 1 starts. Before we get into it, please go down and drop a like. We have our like goal right here. It takes 2 seconds. It helps me out as a creator a bunch. Our first player, though, I hate to waste people's time, is Darnell Mooney, and you need to go get this guy as soon as possible. His roster percentage has been going up and up and up over the past few weeks, and it makes a lot of sense. He's at near 25%, and a lot of that came from Rondale Moore being on IR out for the entirety of the season. That helps a lot. That makes his only competition Drake London, obviously, and Ray McLeod outside of Kyle Pitts, the tight end position. Obviously, Drake London is that number 1 guy, but Darnell Mooney's not just some bum that they brought on this team for no reason that can't play football. Statistically, Darnell Mooney has had a better career than Drake London has. Now, I know Drake London's only been in the league for 2 years, but Darnell Mooney has shown upside and breakout potential. And you look at this and say, all right, he's a random wide receiver too. Why do we care? He's on this team for a reason. The Falcons signed him to a 3-year, $39 million deal. That's not chump change. They went out, they got their guy, and he is going to be used in this offense. You don't pay a guy that much money for nothing. And for some reason, people don't see that. We have Drake London going in the 2nd round. We have Kyle Pitts going as a top tight end as well. Why can't we have that same love for Darnell Mooney? Now, I get it. He's, I guess, the 3rd option behind those 2 guys. But Kirk Cousins could easily support Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, even their running backs out of the backfield. I know Kirk Cousins is coming off an injury, and it is somewhat serious. He's not an MVP candidate, but he definitely is good enough to get these guys fantasy relevant. He's better than Taylor Heineke, Desmond Ridder, any of the quarterbacks that Kyle Pitts or Drake London has ever played for in their career. And we saw Darnell Mooney's potential in the 21-22 season. He had a 27% team target share. He's had his breakout moments. There is a 100% chance everybody in 12 team or more has room at the end of their bench. He's a number 2 wide receiver. He's going to get a good amount of targets. Stash him at the end of your bench. But a guy I am 100% on, and I have personally drafted in probably about 90% of my real leagues, is Jaylen Wright. And I'll keep this very quick for you because I've talked about him before. He should be the last pick in every one of your fantasy football drafts. I guarantee he's probably on waivers still if your league isn't insanely sharp. But he's a rookie running back that just got drafted to the Miami backfield in round 4 of the NFL draft. That's not a nothing draft capital guy. And the way he plays and his player profile fits perfectly with this Dolphins offense. He runs a 4.3 40-yard dash. He can catch passes. He looked pretty good in preseason. He ranks 5th in yards after contact and 13th in elusive rate. Those are all good stats for a running back coming to a Miami team that likes to utilize their running backs. Now you look at this and say they have Raheem Mostert, they have Devon Achane. Why in the world do I need an RB3 on my team? I can wait for that. But you look at this backfield and you see that the Dolphins are the farthest thing from a workhorse scheme. They do not have workhorse backs. They love to run committee backfields. We've seen it for the past couple years, but they wouldn't go out and use a 4th round pick on a very talented running back for no reason. He is also the biggest out of these 3 running backs, so it is presumable that he will get the goal line work when he is experienced enough for that later down the line of the season. Now, this isn't a guy we're adding to get instant value all of a sudden. No, he's a stash at the end of the bench because, again, we look at this backfield, the committee that they're running. They have Raheem Mostert. This is a guy that's 32 years old. He's going to be 33 this season. That is ancient at the running back position. And yes, there are statistical outliers, but basing it on the data, running backs after age 28 really start to decline. And I know you see his 21 touchdown season last year without even playing 100% of the snaps, and you say that can't possibly be true for him. But he has a very, very lengthy injury history. Last year was his most healthy season pretty much ever. Devon Achane also had some injury concerns in and out last year, and now we have Jaylen Wright, a safety valve for this offense. It is not far-fetched to say that one of those other running backs could get injured, and with this committee style, if one of them do, he is going to win leagues being undrafted in fantasy football. The way they run this offense, the way he plays works perfectly. But if you don't want to drop anybody off your bench just yet for it, I understand he's going to get going in a couple weeks, so he doesn't need to be drafted right now or picked up on your waivers, but he's going to be one of those guys that you want to have on your team before that breakout happens, before an injury happens, and this is one of those guys that will return your value. You must be enjoying this video and all the data that comes with it, so hit that subscribe button. I promise I will 100% return the value of you taking 2 seconds to hit that button. But the next guy is Jordan Mason. This is another premium handcuff. Might honestly be the top number 1 guy this year. If you look at his player profile, it's not anything insanely crazy. He doesn't run a super fast 40 time, but we have Elijah Mitchell, the number 2 backup in this backfield, on injured reserve for the entire season. That makes Jordan Mason the number 2 back behind Christian McCaffrey, regardless of who else is in this backfield. Those other guys, they're not anything important. The coaching staff themselves have made it very clear if CMC does get injured, he is going to be the 1-to-1 replacement for Christian McCaffrey, and he's going to be that workhorse guy. Coming from the coaches, that is a really big, important thing. And it's not that crazy to say that Christian McCaffrey might miss some time. Outside of last season, he has been probably the most injury-prone running back drafted as high as he is in fantasy football. And the 49ers just do not do committees. They will go with Christian McCaffrey McCaffrey, or they will go with Jordan Mason when he gets injured. It is 100% fact. If you're drafting Christian McCaffrey in the first round at that high of a draft capital, please go get Jordan Mason. Even if you don't get Christian McCaffrey, he's another guy to put on the back end of your bench, because when that does happen, if it does happen, he will win leagues. But outside of Jordan Mason just being the RB2 next up in line, he was beating out Elijah Mitchell in the preseason. When he was playing, when he was on the field, he was that RB2, and he made the case for himself. And now we have Christian McCaffrey dealing with a calf strain. Do I think it's anything serious? It does not look like it is. Again, pick him up. But Marshawn Lloyd is another running back in a prime spot to be added to your roster. This is the second running back behind Josh Jacobs in the Packers offense, but in super sharp leagues, he might already be gone. So go check your waivers right now to make sure he is still there. The reason for this is because AJ Dillon, again, he put himself on season-ending IR as well. He's not going to play the entire year. That puts Marshawn Lloyd as the only other running back in this backfield that's capable enough of getting a bunch of work. And the thing here is, like Jordan Mason and CMC, if Josh Jacobs does get injured, he's going to be the one-to-one replacement back that is going to be very, very valuable. Lloyd crushed everything, every part of the pre-draft process. He looked amazing in college. His last 2 years, he was a top prospect. He finished top 20 in yards after contact, breakaway rate, all of the important PFF grades that you look for in an up-and-coming running back. But again, if you don't have room on the end of your roster, that's okay. He's more of a fill-in guy for if somebody gets injured, because he's not going to have a ton of inherent value while Josh Jacobs is still healthy. Again, if you have Josh Jacobs, think about adding him. It's not really a week 1 move that you need to make sure you're doing, but if you have that bench space, go ahead and do it. But getting away from those handcuff running backs, some guys that can actually get you startable value now if you need it, Greg Dortch is a guy you need to be picking up off your waivers, and I suggest you to go look for that sooner rather than later, because his roster percentage is also going up and up and up for one key reason, and that is Zay Jones. If you guys do not know, he got suspended for 5 games. He will be out for the first 5 weeks of the season. That is a pretty long suspension. But what that does is open up room for Greg Dortch. And if we look at what he did in the previous seasons, he hasn't been that acclimated to the offense. He hasn't done that much for them. He hasn't gotten really that much fantasy traction. But when he does play, when he is in the game, he is a startable player. He's amazing. And you look at this Cardinals offense, they have Marvin Harrison. They have Trey McBride, obviously. 2 guys that are going to get a ton of usage in the pass game. Greg Dortch is operating as their prime one and only slot wide receiver. If we know anything about slot wide receivers, they get the most targets out of any position, and that is great for PPR leagues. So if he's going to be that slot guy next to all of these other skill positions with no competition with Zay Jones being out, he has a real chance to make a huge case for himself to get a ton of playing time even when Zay Jones does come back. And on top of that, the coaching staff believes in him. Jonathan Gannon himself has come out and said that Greg Dortch is going to be a huge part of their offense and what they want to do. He's probably going to have a breakout year. Everything is pointing towards it. And if you look at this Cardinals defense, what I really love about this pick, that side of the ball is absolutely terrible, which means they're going to have a more pass-heavy script. If your defense lets up a touchdown every time, like my Commanders always do, you're going to have to keep passing. You're going to have to keep the pressure on. You can't play slow and run the ball, which is why Sam Howell had so many pass attempts, but that's besides the point. They're going to be passing a lot, which is going to give Greg Dortch even more volume. But a true finesse pick that only sharp fantasy football leagues and players are on is Keaton Mitchell. And he is going to be on the waivers 99% of the time, and I don't blame you. The guy is on IR. He's going to be missing the first 4 to 5 weeks with his injury that he suffered last season, I believe in week 14. So he's not going to be ready to go first things first week 1 of the season behind Derrick Henry. But you look at what he did last season, and I cannot lie, he was very efficient. He averaged 7.1 yards per carry, 8.1 yards per touch, and he was top 10 in broken tackle rate. A whole bunch of efficiency stats you love to see in young running backs. But the Ravens are a very run-heavy team. We've seen this. Nothing has really changed in the coaching staff to make us think otherwise. And we look at this backfield. A lot of people are going to say, we have Derrick Henry in this backfield. What is the purpose? Derrick Henry is a true workhorse back. Well, whether you like Derrick Henry or not, there is only 2 ways this can go. Number 1, if you don't like Derrick Henry, you're going to get Keaton Mitchell because you don't like him for a reason. He must be splitting value somewhere. Number 2, if you do like Derrick Henry, you have to come to the facts that he is a 30-year-old running back, and it's almost a guarantee that at some point in the season, the Ravens are going to dial back his workload, slow him down just a little bit, because they need him to stay healthy for the playoffs. If they want any success in the postseason, in the Super Bowl, which eventually they're trying to get to, obviously they need Derrick Henry to be healthy. Similar to Travis Kelce, they started slowing him down in the back half of last season, which is why he got everybody to the fantasy playoffs, but once you got there, I guarantee you did not win because he was putting up less than 10 fantasy points a week, and that was in the last few weeks of the season when the Chiefs had already got their playoff spot. They dialed him back so he could stay healthy, and look what they did. I could very much see the same thing happening for the Ravens. They don't want Derrick Henry to be injured. They need that postseason success. They could dial him back, and by week 4 and 5, when Keaton Mitchell comes back, he starts getting acclimated, getting more usage. By that time, he could very much be a league winner. And the great thing about him is that you don't have to use any capital on him. 1, nobody drafted him. 2, pick him up, add him to your IR slot, and never worry about it again for another month and a half. What's up, guys? Bit of an editor's note here. As I was going through editing this video after the Thursday night game, it looks like I was right about the Derrick Henry situation. He did look a little bit washed, and Keaton Mitchell might be that guy, but Justice Hill is going to be a guy you want to pick up off the waivers for right now until Keaton Mitchell comes off IR. Now, he is still a great IR stash, but Justice Hill seems to be that receiving back that we were expecting to split with Derrick Henry, but it just came a lot sooner. Now, I don't want everybody to overreact on Henry. The Ravens are likely going to be up in a lot of their games, so it really won't be a problem, but he is going to be that touchdown dependent guy if he doesn't get receptions every week, which is kind of what we were expecting coming into the season. But don't full-blown panic on Derrick Henry. Give him some time. It was a tough matchup, and even if you were going to want to trade Henry, he's at very low value right now, so you're not going to do it. But go pick up Justice Hill off of your waiver wire. This guy will get 100% of the usage in the pass game. Derrick Henry's never really been a pass catcher. He also did not run any routes out of the backfield. But Justice Hill is not a guy that we're starting every week. Yes, he had a great game, and the Ravens had to adjust because of the defense the Chiefs were playing. But he's still going to be somebody you want and a great handcuff, again, until Keaton Mitchell comes back. And Isaiah Likely is going to be a guy you want to pick up off the waivers as well. Just sticking to this Thursday Night Football game, I wanted to get this to you. I felt an obligation as I was editing this video. But again, tamper your expectations just a little bit. As far as the Mark Andrews situation goes, Mark Andrews will be okay. Maybe his ceiling is a little bit lower now after the Isaiah Likely thing. But again, you're not going to be starting Isaiah Likely just yet. Give it another week, maybe even two, to see how he's used in this offense coming forward. Mark Andrews, again, coming off an injury, coming off a car crash. Like, this is the first game of the regular season. You'd expect him to be fully healthy and be okay, which apparently he is. But give it a week. I'm not worried about Mark Andrews. Back to the video, though. I get it. A lot of you guys are going to look at all these players on this list and think, I have a bunch of dudes that I drafted in the last couple of picks I can't really drop. I can't drop the Curtis Samuels. I can't drop the Brian Thomases on my bench. Even the Zekes. I don't really want to do that. But look at your roster. If you have a backup tight end, if you have a backup quarterback, go through and drop them. You're never going to be using those guys outside of the 1 week that your starting quarterback has a bye, so they're just eating up a spot on your bench you do not need. Now, unless you have a guy like Jaden Daniels or a lower level guy that has more injury risk but you didn't take with huge capital and you have a backup like Tua for that, that is the only situation where you need to keep a backup quarterback. I do not believe in backup tight ends or quarterbacks because you shouldn't have two. They're playing for your bye week. Drop one of those guys and pick up these high upside guys. By the time bye weeks even come around in a month or two, then you can pick up somebody else. But a player you need to be making room for, getting rid of your quarterbacks for, is Ty Chandler. Go check out if he's available in your league right now. He should be rostered in about 60% of leagues, so it is very possible that he's not in yours. But this isn't just some random handcuff running back. This is the least handcuff of the guys that isn't rostered in a ton of leagues that you can get on your team. We got to remember, in his first start in week 15, he put up 27.7 fantasy points. Nobody that is a no-name does that. Now, if you've been around this page for long enough, you know I always talk about small sample sizes for running backs. You don't really want to be following that because it can lead you in the wrong directions. When he's been given opportunities in this Vikings offense, he has produced. Now, they have Aaron Jones on this offense, obviously, but I don't think it's going to be a true workhorse role for him. The draft stock for Ty Chandler is RB50. Like, there's no way he can't outperform that because he's not even projected to be an RB2 behind Aaron Jones. The coaching staff and the team has come out and said that this is going to start the season out as a 1A, 1B situation. Now, what does that mean? It means a lot of different things for a lot of different teams. Will Aaron Jones get more of the actual work on field? Yes, it's a pretty much guarantee, but the time on field, the snaps, this time spent on the NFL turf is gonna be relatively similar. Now, I do think Aaron Jones is gonna dominate in the usage, at least in the beginning of the season. He is still a decent running back, but you look at his player profile. On average, running backs age 28 or older going to new teams historically do not outperform their ADP. It is very hard for them to do that, and there's a lot of missing variables here. They're going to a new offense, a new offensive coordinator, new coaching, new quarterback, new offensive line, new everything, and you're getting to that age where statistically you start to decline. And you look at Aaron Jones, his broken tackle rate, his efficiency numbers, pretty much all of them have been decreasing for the past couple years. Now, he has been in and out with injury, but again, it comes with the aging running back take, and he's going to be 30 this season. But all of that combined with the coaching staff saying this is going to be more of a 1A, 1B situation makes me think Ty Chandler needs to be rostered at least in your league. There's no way he should be sitting on the waivers. See what week 1 looks like. If it is a complete workhorse role, which I doubt is going to happen, you can drop him. But he's going to be one of those guys you need to have on your bench that can actually have week-to-week upside. But if Aaron Jones does get injured, he's going to again be a league winner. Go ahead and pick him up. But that is going to finish off this video. I seriously appreciate you guys watching all the way through. I will see you guys in the next videos coming soon. I cannot wait for the NFL season to get going.